So unless you've been sleeping under a rock, or if you haven't seen my videos, you would know that Fire Force's manga has recently ended. And with that ending, we've got a message from the actual mangaka of Soul Eater / Fire Force. And yes, Soul Eater and Fire Force are both connected because Fire Force is the prequel to Soul Eater, just in case if you haven't known that already. But to get you guys all caught up to this dilemma, the creator of Fire Force said that he would be retiring with Fire Force. Fire Force would be his last manga. But at the ending of Fire Force, it clearly says, "Thank you for reading. Please look forward to Okubo Sensei's next work." And after that, at the bottom of the page, it says, "Next is Soul World." Now that is very funny when you take into consideration that Okubo said he would be retiring after Fire Force. I'm not gonna lie, it definitely has me scratching my head. If Okubo is retiring from manga, why does it say in the ending of Fire Force that we should look forward to his next work? After all, in this omake that he usually makes called Atsushia, he directly said, "The story is reaching its finale. I'm planning for this to be my last manga, so please stick with me to the end." And again, if we look back at the ending of Fire Force, something is not adding up. How could you have a next work if this was the manga that you're retiring on? So what I've heard from other fans in the Fire Force community, they feel as if Kodansha has made a mistake and Okubo's not actually making another work. When they're saying next is Soul World, they're actually referring to the world of Soul Eater. And the reason why they're calling it Soul World rather than calling it Soul Eater, rather than saying next is Soul Eater, is because of licensing issues, because Square Enix owns the rights for Soul Eater while Fire Force is owned by Kodansha. Similar to how Shaman King is owned by Shonen Jump and how Shaman King jumped over to Kodansha, and the rest is history. I, for one, do not have all the answers, and I don't know whether or not this is right or wrong, but I will definitely give you guys my take on this. So I do think this claim makes a lot of sense, but it's not one that I personally am resonating with or leaning towards because, look, the manga says, "Thank you for reading. Please look forward to Okubo Sensei's next work." Okay, let's say that this is some auto-generated bullshit that comes from the magazine or whatever, right? So my big issue here is, would Kodansha really be so unprofessional that they would just do that while still knowing that this is Okubo Sensei's last work and that he is retiring? At least to me, that sounds a little bit ridiculous. And as a mangaka, I think Okubo would really want to avoid being dragged along into another manga despite saying that he was retiring. That would really just be a very horrible situation for a mangaka that's about to retire to be in, and for Kodansha to make a mistake like that just is kind of weird to me. And let's say this really is some auto-generated thing, right? I read a lot of manga, but I've never seen a mistake like this before, like ever. Somebody saying that they're about to make another manga, but turns out they weren't actually making another manga or having another work. I'm not saying that it's not possible or that mistakes can't be made, but under the given circumstances, it's kind of hard to believe that this would be a mistake. So this is at least the way I'm really looking at this. I do think Okubo is making another manga because clearly it says that at the end of Fire Force. Maybe in the volume release it'll be different. And I feel like his next series is most likely going to be Soul World. After all, the way the original Soul Eater ended, it seemed like there was a lot more that could have been done. Is Maka ever going to save Krona? I guess we'll never know! Please keep in mind, I obviously do realize that Okubo announced his retirement, but this ending obviously says otherwise. The only way this could possibly make sense is when you take into consideration what Okubo and likewise what other mangakas might define as retirement. Would you still be considered a mangaka if you weren't drawing your manga anymore, and if instead you were giving somebody else drafts to draw that manga? For example, the last manga that Akira Toriyama drew was Jacko the Galactic Patrolman. Rather than drawing the manga and being the mangaka behind it, Toyotaro is actually the mangaka that is drawing Dragon Ball Super, while Akira Toriyama looks over it and gives him an outline. At least to me, the thing that would make the most sense is the fact that Okubo is retiring from drawing manga and being a mangaka who both writes his stories and draws them, but rather he'll be making another work as an author. If I had to compare this situation to anything, it seems like he'd be taking the route that Masashi Kishimoto took when it came to handling Samurai 8. This would be his next work, but he's not going to be the mangaka behind it because he would most likely be working with someone else, more or less one of his assistants from Atsushia. It really depends because your stereotypical mangaka handles both the art and the story, and that's why you see a lot of mangakas get very personal when it comes to other people touching their artwork, such as Akira Toriyama and Yoshiro Tagashi. It seems to me Okubo will be retired as a mangaka, and it's rather sad that and heartbreaking that this will be the last story that he'll be drawing, aka Fire Force. But this will not be the end of his opportunities as a writer and or author. If he's retired but still making another work, obviously this would make the most sense. After all, it clearly says, "Thank you for reading. Please look forward to Okubo's next work." And if we're reading this like a manga from right to left, we read it, we look over the page from manga, then we look down. Our answer to what that next is, that next would definitely be Soul World. I can't think of a much more simple way to explain this outside of the fact that I doubt Kodansha, a professional manga company, knowing that Okubo would retire soon, would make a mistake and say that he's making another work when he would be retired. But not only this, at the bottom of the page, it says next is Soul World. You know, you could assume that refers to Soul Eater, but we've never once had or heard of the world of Soul Eater being referred to as Soul World. I could honestly go all day as to why I don't think that would make any sense, but I do realize that there's still a possibility that this all could be a mistake by Kodansha, and there might not be a sequel to Fire Force and or Soul Eater, even though this would just be a very, very, very weird predicament to occur. So weird that I would be surprised that Okubo has not caught this mistake and said anything about it in the first place. But you know, I don't have all the answers, so just in case if I am wrong and this is not a sequel to Fire Force and or Soul Eater, who knows? This is just what I think makes the most sense in this scenario. But regardless, I still plan on talking about Soul World, etc. in other videos. Also, before we end this, guys, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think we're getting a Soul Eater 2 or a Fire Force 2? Or do you think this is all bullshit? Please tell me in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.